Good afternoon, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, and my name is Brittany Taylor Driggers. I am the Director of Collections and Galleries at USC Lancaster. I would like to thank you for joining us today for Nicole Braswell's artist presentation. Nicole is one of two artists from the Catawba Nation featured in our new exhibit, Painted Voices, which is on display within our Red Rose Gallery through June 20th. If you get a chance, please come and visit us to see the works covered in tonight's presentation in person. Please, without further ado, I'll give you Nicole Braswell.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all for having me. I want to extend my deepest gratitude um, to Ashley and Sharon and Brittany for having me, for displaying my work, and for their great collaboration during this time. I welcome all of you here, and I'm just going to start out with a brief introduction of who I am, and then we'll get into the more meat of the presentation, which is the work, which is most important. And there is a chat box that you will find in your screen somewhere. So if anyone has questions, please post them in the chat. And I have a chat box here, so I will be able to see them and address them as we go. If you have particular questions about the work that we'll be covering, please ask away. I welcome all of your questions. So we'll get started. Okay, just a brief introduction. You all can read, I'm sure. So I'm not going to read this. I am Nicole Foxx Braswell. I am a member of the Catawba Indian Nation, and I come from the line of family called Ayers and Fox within our nation. My grandmother was Mary Evelyn Ayers, and she married my great grandfather, who is from Sicily. And they together created this brood of foxes. And so here we are. And just a little information about my grandmother. My grandmother was born in 1895. When she was very young, she was sent away to Carlisle Indian School in Pennsylvania. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that school, but she was sent there in the whole exercise toward killing the savage and saving the man, as we all have heard. She did have a good experience there, so I'm happy to report that. And she really enjoyed her time of learning while she was there. Um, I grew up in a multi-generational household. My grandparents lived with our family as we were coming up, and I got the pleasure of spending every day with my grandparents. Not a lot of people get to do that anymore, but that was the way back then. And so um, my grandmother was instrumental in opening my eyes up to a cosmic world of color, as I like to say. She had a beautiful handwriting, and she would color with me for hours. So I have no memory of ever not loving art in some form or fashion, and I credit all of that to my grandmother Grace. She exposed me to the written word, and I love words, and I love books, and I love art. So I attribute all of that to her. I have always loved to create, and I have no memory of ever not loving that. So I have spent years learning pottery by the wheel and stained glass and years sketching and painting as well. I love to paint in vibrant colors, and I love the surrealist genre as well as abstract. Recently, I have moved into creating art with more of an indigenous theme, and this was very intentional. It was intentional because it was due in part to honor my father, who passed away in 2020. He was a beloved member of the tribe. He loved the people he came from, and he passed that on to his children. And so I am here to honor him with my work and honor my grandmother who created that spark and that love of art for me. So that's why I'm here. I paint to honor him, I paint to honor my grandmother, and I paint to honor myself. So that is a bit of an introduction for me. And if you have any questions about anything that I've gone over, please put it in the chat and we'll get to it. So the first piece here is one of my favorite pieces, probably because it has some sentimental value. This piece is called The Chief, and it is pretty large, and it is on display at the exhibit at the Native America Study Center. This piece was entered into a contest, and the contest was called Generations. So I used this piece in that prompt because what I did is I kind of melded all of my ancestral generational ancestors together, their features. I put all of their features together and created what I now call the chief. And this is him. And there are distinct features within his face that resonates within my family and resonates within a lot of Catawbas in general. So if you know any Catawbas, you may find a feature or two that you can see the resemblance. And this painting resides officially with my sister-in-law, Carla. This was given to her as a gift to carry on the chiefdom in her home. So I was very excited to gift this to my sister-in-law, and she loves this piece and will never part with it. So that's why it's not for sale.
Nicole, before
Yes,
you move on, can you talk about your color choices on this particular piece?
sure. So the color choices, when I first created this piece, it was all, I do a wash. And so when I do a wash, I just throw colors at it, right? And I wanted something vibrant, but I wanted something subdued at the same time. So that's why his face is in this kind of green yellow hue, because that's what I threw on the canvas to begin with. And then I molded his face around the features that were showing after I kind of applied paint to the canvas and started creating the composition. And the colors, I wanted something to pop. And so that's why I put some of the brighter colors in the feathers and in his headdress. And just went from there with the color choices. But for the most part, it's a subdued painting, but it does have some vibrancy in the color choice.
Thank you.
Any more questions on this piece? Yep. We'll move on. This is the Woman of the River. Um, this piece too, I did start with a very brownish background and started molding the woman, as it were, around that, and created the headdress and the traditional garments from there. This piece is also at the Native American Study Center on display. And this is Skylight. This is kind of to honor the traditional view of living or dwellings of indigenous peoples. This was not, I will have to say, is not a traditional dwelling of the Catawba. The Catawba, we built round cabins and it was made of wood. So that's our traditional dwelling, but I wanted to kind of highlight what it would look like from light illuminating from the dwelling so that it gives a pop of color in the sea of gray. So this next piece is called Catawba Past, Present, Future. I do love abstract and I do love surreal. And I love allegory and symbology, and you can find all of that in this painting. Um, I will draw your attention to the two figures around the chalice. That those are traditional indigenous figures that are looking to the side. You can see them in profile and representing in the white face on the left is a representation of colonialism and how indigenous peoples had to deal with colonialism when they first encountered them, and all of the adjustments that had to be made in life due to the colonists' efforts to dwell in our on our lands. You will see on the right-hand side, there is a figure dancing, but in the body of that figure, a face is coming out. This is indicative of the ghostly ancestors that we come from. And you will see another face in the background. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but right here in the upper right, you will see a face that is pointed downward. And there's also a side profile of a face in the garment of the figure, the indigenous figure on the left. And inside the chalice, you will see what is called a papoose, which is an Indian baby wrapping. Inside of that papoose, you will see the eagle's head, which is a very symbolic a nod toward, the symbols that we use in our culture. And above that is the Catawba River, the river for which we depend on for and have depended on for generations. And it is giving birth to the next generation of Catawba, which are above the water line there. And they're walking toward the sun for better days ahead. Any questions on that one? We have a quiet crowd.
I think everyone's taking it in.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is kind of a break from indigenous themes, but I love Cubism as well. And this is called Face Me. And you will see three faces in this painting. And there is a profile on the left, there is a profile in the center, and there's a full face to the front. And again, the use of color and vibrancy is you can see throughout my paintings, as it is a staple for me. This one is a very old painting. This is called Buildings Quake. I did this painting after 9/11, and it was in a Cubist style, and it just represents the changing of our New York skyline in a matter of seconds, and the tears and the loss that ensued from that, and the changing of an entire generation. The next painting we'll go over is Tangled Webs. This too is in abstract and form, and it is using a palette of blue, and you will see the eye in profile. This next one is called Waterfall. I painted this because I was in a springy, fally spirit. So I wanted to bring all the colors to life with its reflection in the water just to see what it would do. And it turned out pretty well. I was happy. So we have a question from Jack Beecham. When making an abstract piece, which part do you normally start with? Is it always color wash technique, or does it change with the topic and mood of the painting? That is interesting. That's a good question. So when I do an abstract piece, I typically start with a color palette in mind, and I will begin throwing color on a canvas because I love the organic way of painting. Um, Sometimes when I have an intentional painting, it doesn't always turn out the best for me. So I like to have paintings kind of organically speak to me into what they want to become. And I do throw color at it to begin with to give me a feel. And then depending on where what I see with those color deposits, it will take me in a totally different direction of where I thought I was heading. So sometimes paintings are a surprise to me as well. I hope that answered your question, Jack. Thank you.
I'm going to piggyback off that question because it leads into mine. Do you find it is easier to go between your different styles due to the subject, or do you work within a series at a time? Like, are you focused on a series and stick with abstract, or do you bounce between the two different styles?
No, I do not. I let each painting speak for itself. I don't typically work in a series format because I find that that's too structured for me personally. That's just my personal kind of way I go about things. Because sometimes with a series, it almost feels forced at some point, and then you wonder, okay, when will the series end, right? So I kind of approach each painting as its own special piece. And sometimes there are paintings that have similar themes or similar colors or composition that could potentially be a series, but they weren't painted intentionally as a series. Great
Thank you.
question. You're welcome. This painting is called Speeding Trains. And if you're looking at it, you're probably wondering, what is that? Well, if you've ever been at a railroad crossing in a car and you have to wait on the railroad, the train to go by before you can go over the railroad tracks. This is what I see. It is a speeding train, and you can see the lines of the train paint in the windows, and everything is kind of garbled and kind of skewed. But that's what you see when a rushing train whizzes past. Okay, we'll keep going. And this painting is called Loss. And as it is indigenous in theme, and I tried to use a smaller head dress, even though this is not really a dress. A lot of Southeastern Indians only had feathers in the top of their skull, not necessarily the full dress that you see within the Western tribes. So this is a nod toward the Southeast Indians. And again, you will see the colors and the vibrancy within the painting. This painting is uh, very abstract, but I think it does get the point across. It's fire and water, and sometimes the two don't go together. But in this painting, I think it goes quite well. And again, you will see the bright colors and the vibrancy and what I'm trying to display. I did want to go back to the speeding trains. I did want to let you know that this is not entirely acrylic. This has alcohol ink in the painting, as well as some flow acrylic. So I wanted to let you guys know that.
Do you
Okay.
typically work in that medium, or do you normally stick with oil paints and acrylic?
Yeah, recently I have been experimenting on boards. So typically I paint in acrylic, and I always use a UV protectant at the end so that the piece does not deteriorate over time. And I have worked in alcohol ink, and different mediums. Like now I'm experimenting with boards, and these boards actually were old cabinet doors. And, they're beveled, they're really cool. But what the boards provide is a very hard surface that I can pack um, modeling clay onto or modeling paste onto that I can create texture within a painting. And I've got one piece that I'll show you next that has some of that in it.
Very
Um,
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. This is called Celebrate Heritage. Sorry about the PowerPoint there. The E is cut off of Celebrate. I did not make that wide enough. Apologies. So this is a painting of celebration, lots of colors and excitement and fun. And you will notice that my indigenous pieces, especially when I do portraits, you will see different colors of skin because we all have different skin tones. Some of us are very light skinned, like myself, but my sister is very dark skinned and my brother is very dark skinned. So we see it within our family. Everybody has different tones of skin. So I wanted to be inclusive and put lots of different colors of skin on the indigenous portraits. So this one is actually on a board. I painted this for our chief's wife. I will be bringing that to him this weekend to give to her. She lives in Alabama. So as you can see, there's lots of texture on this board, and it is a dream catcher. And I tried to do something a little different in the design of the canvas inside of the dream catcher that's supposed to catch all of the nasty dreams. Uh, so this is just an homage to that symbol of indigenous culture and I got to play around with a lot of cool texturing and washes. This is another one, and this is also on a board. And I have put some hidden features here. So if you look beyond the dream catchers itself, you will see haunting faces behind you in yellow. I don't know if you can see that, but they are there. And then there's another face in blue and eyes here and there, you will see. But dream catchers are supposed to catch those nasty dreams so that we don't have to deal with them during our sleep. And so that's what these dream catchers are doing. So these are two different paintings. The painting on the left is called Dancing Shadows. And I painted this for my niece Cheyenne. She's got it in her home. And it's just a painting that celebrates females in our culture and what we provide to our nation, which is lots of fun and beauty and dancing and laughter. And the painting on the right is called Native Blue Ridge Sisters. And this painting is sitting in my sister's home on her wall. And this is symbolic of she and I. This painting is called Hope, and it resides in our chief's office at our nation. I gifted this to him after his win in our elections this past year. And it was a symbol of hope for him, for changes to come and better days ahead for our people. And I was very proud to give that to him. And as you can see, the tone of the skin is much different than what you've seen in other paintings. This is called the War Horse and the Indigenous Princess. You'll see the war horse here. This war horse painting actually resides on the wall at our cultural center. And if please welcome all of you to visit our cultural center in Rock Hill. You'll be able to see all kinds of interesting artifacts and pottery, which we are known for. And some of my paintings are on the wall there as you come in the front door. And then the Indigenous Princess is just another portrait that I put together with lots of vivid colors, and this skin tone is actually gold. This painting is called Canoe on the Catawba. I gifted this painting to our tribe for community development. And as it so happens, our chief has it on his wall as well. So, and this is a tribute to our ancestors who created the tradition of pottery making. And it's also symbolic of the Catawba River from which we thrive. This is a painting called The Feminine Divine. I am very much uh, a, a modern woman, and I have studied feminine studies in the past, and this is a tribute to recognizing the role that females play in our society, whether it's indigenous or whether it's our modern society, and all of the attributes that we bring to the table. This painting is called Fragments, and this is also a tribute to females and indigenous females, and just a little composition here and there, and collaging. I love collaging, so I love to rip things apart and put them together in crazy ways. This painting is called Trail of Tears. It is a diptych, which means two in the series. And I actually painted these together, and there's texture here. And it is indicative of the Trail of Tears that our ancestors walked many, many generations ago. And then Native Friends on the right. This is called The Hunt. And you'll see the two indigenous figures on horseback. And in the distance, you will see um, markings in the painting that look like a herd of horses that they're rounding up. This painting is called the Carlyle effect. The Carlyle effect, this painting is very symbolic, and it is a tribute to my great grandmother and her brother Wade. Her brother Wade was also sent to Carlisle Indian School. Unfortunately, he never returned. As a matter of fact, we tried to retrieve his remains and bring them home in the last several couple of years, and when they went to um, remove his remains, they found that it wasn't him after all, it was a female. So we still do not really know where our Uncle Wade is um, in his resting spot, but this is a tribute to my great grandmother. You will see on the left-hand side that you'll see ripped pieces of paper. What these ripped pieces of paper are school cards from my grandmother's time at Carlisle. These are her progress reports, her entry cards, and anything that the teachers wrote about her. You will find here. And symbolically, you will see in the lower left-hand corner the way it looked before and after when the kids were sent, what they looked like, and what they looked like after they spent a couple of years at Carlisle. And you will see the great divide between the two. The left is symbolic of the people who wanted to change our way of life and who were very successful, by the way. We will spend generations recouping what was lost during those years. And on the right, you will see a figure of a young indigenous child. And the body of the child, you will see a photograph from the early 1900s of all the children at Carlisle. And above at his chest level is a report card of my grandmother. And the document behind the head of the indigenous child is actually a document recounting when a young brave escaped from the school and what they had to do to bring him back. Caitlin Scholl has a question. I notice you use different symbols on the clothing of the women in the painting. Do those markings have any special meaning to you? No, I think that I just come up with some of these right on my own. But a lot of them, I do look at old photographs of indigenous portraits to try to mimic. Unfortunately, in old photographs, you're not able to see color because they're in black and white. So I have to take some creative license there and put color on certain features within the garments. Great question. This painting is called The Dance, and it is very abstract, it's very busy, but when you dance, it is a lot of movement and a lot of fun. So that's what I was trying to display here with this painting. And this is done on board as well. And that will wrap up all of the work I wanted to share with you guys. I'm happy to take additional questions. It, I don't know if you want to unmute and ask questions. Um, Brittany, is that okay?
That's okay. But I do have one question before we open it up to the floor. Before we move away from the painting, the dance, I noticed that the clothing or the suggested clothing is different than some of the other ones in your previous pieces. Can you describe why you made those choices, or if that was a conscious choice or a subconscious choice?
In the dance?
Yes, and the one that's on the screen now.
Okay. Yes. So this was just two figures dancing. I wanted to represent male and female in the painting to give a nod to both genders. Uh, and there was really no intent. I wanted the figures to stand out with all of the color and the busyness of the composition. So in order to do that, I painted them in white.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is Carlisle for sale? Um, it is, and I was planning on selling that to the cultural center, but I will be open to negotiation if anyone would like to purchase Carlisle. Jack Beecham has a question. How do you get the sharp edges and lines on the board? Is it a brush or more of a plastic blade that you use on the harder surface? I'm not a painter and not very versed in the tools used beyond brushes. I tell you, I use all kind of tools. As a matter of fact, my siblings can attest. I don't know if they're on the call, but they can attest that when I write, I actually use a ruler when I just write. Um, so I will use edges, but one tool that I find that is very helpful is it has I forgot the name of the tool, but it has like a plastic rubber kind of end to it, and I can go through and make hard edges with that tool as I'm working a piece so that it gives me the straighter edges. But I have been known to use old cardboard sitting around where I can paint a straight edge. You can use anything. You don't have to buy an instrument for that. You can be very creative for whatever you have sitting around. And I encourage everyone, even if you're not an artist, go play around in some paint. You will be so surprised at what you come up with. I think that we all contain a creative spirit. I think that sometimes we just don't let it develop into what it's supposed to be. So I encourage everyone to play and paint. Dee Dee Gillis, who is my sister, says, but of course she writes in Old English cursive. It's beautiful, but the kids have a hard time reading birthday cards at birthday dinners. Yes, they do. Alex Osborne, thank you for joining, Alex. Thank you. Thank
Nicole,
you.
she just mentioned your handwriting. Have you ever used your own handwriting within your work as other than just maybe one word or two? I saw a few words here and there, but I haven't seen a whole lot of it.
No, I haven't. I have been wanting to play around with that. So I am thinking about, what that would look like. Um, but I am very particular about my handwriting. It's an OCD thing for me. But there again, I attribute that to my grandmother. My grandmother had beautiful handwriting, and I fell in love with written words just from watching her write. And I've always tried to mimic her writing because it was just so stylistic and artful.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Caitlin.
questions? Did someone have a question? I think I interrupted someone. Okay.
And please, if there are any students on the call, if you have any questions, I feel free, Brittany, Ashley, Sharon, share my contact and my email address with any student that has questions or inquiries. I would love to share.
Alex had a question. Do you have a favorite piece out of the works you have shared today? And if so, why?
I have a couple of favorites. The number one would be the Chief. Because that was so heartfelt, and it took me a while to kind of meld all of those features of my ancestors in the chief painting. And I'll go back to it. Let's see. It took me a while to bring all of those features together because I used my great grandmother's features as well as my grandfather as well as my dad and my great aunt, my Aunt Pet or Pat, they used to call her, but her name was really Pet because she was the baby, but her name metamorphosized into Pet over the years. But anyway, I had to meld female and male features together to make this kind of androgynous chief. And it just holds a special place in my heart. And also, this was the first painting that I did after my father passed. And that was a very hard time for me. So I was holding him up in spirit as I was painting this painting. And I would say probably the second painting that I really enjoyed was the Carlisle piece because it had so much history included, and there's a big story behind it.
Can you talk a little bit more about your influences on the different artworks?
Yes, so I have a lot of influences. Um, I fell in love with Pablo Picasso, of course. I loved his paintings from early on. I love his distorted, um, how he takes normal things and distorts them into something very interesting. So I love that about him. I love Romaine Brooks, who was a leading feminist in the day. She did portraiture, and I loved her work. And then also Marc Chagall. Uh, I've had a lot of influences in my work, and it's kind of probably influenced my style. I think Alex had another question. You use really bold lines and colors in the majority of the work that I've seen of yours. Are there any artists that have inspired you? Okay. Yep. Just answered that, Alex. Thank you.
Do
Please
you
speak.
ever limit your palette of color for a particular piece for any reason?
Mm-mm. The only there's one piece in this one. This you will see in this painting that there are not a lot of colors in this painting. Um, it is a grayscale painting, but I infused colors in there, right? But there are only two different colors. We have the bright orange and yellow, and then the leather kind of look for the canvas on the right. Um, but typically, I have all of my paints out, and I will just put color upon color and see what works and move from that point. I will say that I've found some colors that are black light paint. So in this painting, if you put this painting under a black light, you will see something totally different. The same with the Catawba past, present, future. There are, in this painting here, there are black light paints in this painting. And when you put this under black light, you will have a different experience with the painting.
Oh, very cool. So you have like a hidden kind of painting within a painting. You
Hmm.
just don't know it.
Yeah, you will see different things because the black light paint is more vibrant under black light, so different things will pop out at you.
Okay, so I need to get a black light for the gallery. That's what I'm hearing. Did not know that. I'm going to be experimenting this week.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, put them under black light and see what you see. So Alex has a question. He says, so it just dawned on me that we both use blending features in portraits. And just so for everyone's knowledge, Alex is also a Catawba member and he is also an artist. And he and I are collaborating on a mural piece for our new admin building in Rock Hill. And Alex and I have been working together the past several weeks on this piece. And so, what Alex's question is for him, it's a way to connect Catawba people from our past with the present. So his question is, what inspired you to composite your relatives into the chief? Well, what inspired me on that, Alex, is that painting was done for a contest at the tribe. That painting was featured on the calendar that year. And what I did, the prompt for that contest was generations. And so what I did is I blended all of my ancestral features into one, giving a nod to all of my past generations. Thank you, Alex.
Okay. Another question for me. I know I'm asking a lot too, so
No,
if
please.
anyone else has questions, please chime in. Throughout the gallery, your pieces are various sizes, various, like you said, some of them are canvas, some of them are wood, some of them are cabinet doors. As an artist myself, I love that because I've done that myself, and that's so exciting. Do you tend to gravitate more towards large scale pieces, small, medium? Do you have a preference?
Yes, I do. The bigger, the better. For me, I love to just spread out on a canvas, and the bigger the canvas, the more I feel like I have room to let all of this out. It is really hard for me to paint on small canvas. I have done it, and I have been challenging myself over the last 6 months to paint smaller pieces for a cultural center. So it is a little more difficult for me to express myself given a small space.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jack. Thanks for your questions too, and thank you for joining. Thank you, Dee Dee, my sister. And Alex says it's interesting that contemporary Catawba artists seem to work a lot larger than our ancestors. Yes, we do. Please, please let all of your friends and family and loved ones know about the exhibit. Send them to the Native American Study Center so that you can see the work live and in person. And again, if there are any students on the call and you would like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, I am open to that. I will let Brittany know that she can share my email contact information with any of you, as I encourage everyone to dive into their creative spirit and just express yourself. It feels so good after.
Thank you, Nicole. Last call for questions. All right, thank you so much. And remember, the in-person exhibit is up in the center until June 20th. So come by and see us. And this session is recorded, and hopefully we'll be able to have it online and available for your viewing pleasure at sometime soon. All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.